everybody, this is the thejonnymar, and I am continuing with Final Fantasy III for the PSP. So my last episode, we beat Odin, and we got the legendary summon as an ally that we can now get in battle. And in between episodes, I leveled up to level 40 with all of my party members, and I actually changed Luneth off of the thief job. And that is because we were able to steal the item of interest that I was building up my thief for, and that was the Gungnir Lance. So now that Luneth no longer needs to be a thief, I have equipped him as a black mage. So in this episode, we are going to eventually move on to the next plot-related dungeon, but before we do that, we want to head to the next side quest area. And that is an area below Triangle Island. So similar to Final Fantasy VI, we do have a Triangle Island located down in the southeast corner of the map. In Final Fantasy VI, Triangle Island was in the northeast corner of the map. And unfortunately, we cannot get Go-Go on this particular Triangle Island. But it does allow us to access a new dungeon that is pretty good for leveling and also has some items we want to pick up. So to find it, what you need to do is go over to Goldor's Manor and then head directly east, and that'll take you to the island. And once you get to the island, you want to submerge off of the east corner of the island to find the entrance to the cave. So let's head on in. So in the Sunken Cave, as you might expect, there are a number of enemies that are weak to lightning. So this is a good place to use your lightning staves or your lightning rods, and also the thunder spells. There are also quite a few chests to pick up, so we're going to spend our time kind of running back and forth across the floors, grabbing those chests. So first off, we get a Tiger Claws. Pretty good weapon for a black belt or a monk if you're using those classes. Here's our first new encounter in the Sunken Cave. It is the Killer Hermit. The snail-like enemy, I believe, is weak to lightning. So as you might expect, blast it. Unfortunately, we don't have salt, so we can't put that on them. But we can kill them with good old-fashioned weapon hits as well as lightning attacks. Now, the enemies in this area are actually going to seem quite a bit easier than the previous areas, and that is because, again, if you're following along with me and doing what I'm doing, you're going to be at a significantly higher level. If you do come here right away before heading to the Temple of Time and getting Unai, then the enemies here will be a little bit more difficult. It's entirely up to you. This is the order I choose to do it, simply because I like to have Unai in my party. We got a new weapon for a thief, and we'll take on these other new enemies that are present, these mermaid-like enemies. So having Unai in the party allows her to help us out with haste and also the holy spell. But certainly if you want to come here before heading to the Temple of Time or Saronia's Catacombs to fight Odin, that's fine as well. You get to decide how you want to do things. This is just the order I choose to do them in. I like the little fish bones that are hanging out on the floor, kind of illustrating that there are some creepy crawlies around. So let's check out those new items that we picked up. First off, we had the, let's see if we can find it, the Tiger Claws. They're pretty powerful, certainly more powerful than the existing claws that we had. We also got the Dual Tomahawk, which is a pretty good weapon as well for a Viking if you're using it. And then the Chakram is a pretty powerful new back row attack weapon for a thief class. So it's a straight upgrade over the boomerangs. So again, if you're still using a thief, that's a good weapon to have. So we're actually almost done with the Sunken Cave already. This is the final floor. We just have quite a few chests to pick up, and then we have some trap chests to deal with and some enemies. So we get another diamond shield, a new metal knuckles, a diamond helm, and lastly in this little area, the cognitome. So, some new armor to equip if you need it, if you're running some more physical attackers. And then also a couple of new weapons as well. So let's check those weapons out. So the Cognitome is a straight upgrade over the previous books that the Scholar can equip. It just is not elementally based. Then the Metal Knuckles, again, significant attack boost over our previous Knuckle weapons. And over here we get the all-powerful Ancient Sword. So this is a pretty good weapon to have for a significant amount of time. Now I'm going to use it for the immediate future. I'm going to change off of it soon because its usefulness is not necessarily going to always be there, but it is something that can be very helpful, especially in a few of the upcoming areas. So while in Final Fantasy II, the Ancient Sword put a curse on enemies, making them less effective, in this game, the Ancient Sword actually paralyzes enemies, making them significantly less effective. Now, as you might expect, it's not 100% accurate, but when it does hit, it does do quite a bit of help for your party. Essentially, immobilizing an enemy and allowing you to attack it without worries about counterattacks. So we get another air knife, if you like to have your thief in the front row. Another diamond mail, pretty useful. The Loki Harp for the bard job, and then finally some diamond bracers. Now the bard job is not something I've been using. That will change. The bard job is actually pretty special in terms of its usefulness, especially towards the end of the game. And it's actually one of the classes I'm going to be using significantly more often as we approach the end of the game. But for now, I don't find it as useful. I like to have just the pure DPS damage. So we'll get to it eventually. A few more chests on this particular floor that are obvious. So we'll head down here and grab them. We get an elixir. Some diamond gloves. Not the most useful. And also some of our last new enemies. They look pretty creepy. Attacking with their claws. Too bad we can't cook them up and eat them. Although I'm not a huge fan of seafood. My wife is actually a much bigger fan of seafood. And a Phoenix Down. Always appreciated. Lastly, let's head through this secret passage, and now we have our 4 trap chests. So each of these is guarded by a somewhat powerful enemy. Again, not the worst. One of the enemies specifically, though, is something to look out for. And I'll talk about that in a second when we get to it. First off, we have this dragon enemy. Guess it's more of a wyvern. And we're going to equip our new lance that we found. So now we are almost up to 250 attack power with our dragoon. So he is very powerful. And also when facing enemies that have a weakness to wind, yeah, he's going to do a ton of damage. He's going to hit the damage cap. So I opened that chest first to get that weapon, because it didn't really increase his attack a ton, but it certainly is going to be helpful. So next up, let's find another Aegis shield. And take on this zombie enemy. The zombie dragon. So you want to be careful with this enemy, because if you are still using your blood equipment, like the blood sword or the blood spear, attacking him is actually going to do the opposite effect, like it does on most undead in a lot of the Final Fantasies. So it'll actually drain from you and give it to them, as opposed to the way it normally works. Our third chest is the Triton Hammer. We're not using a Viking, but that will change again very soon. We will use them for one particular dungeon. We have this Eater enemy that goes down super fast to our very powerful Dragoon. And then the last chest is the enemy to beware of. Let's open it up. We'll get the Reflect Mail, and then take on the Deathclaw-like enemy. So fortunately, it does not have the Deathclaw ability from Final Fantasy V, That thing is nasty. But it is one of the first splitting enemies in this game. So if you attack this enemy with a physical attack and you don't kill it, it will actually split off and create a clone of itself. And this is a little technique that is going to be used by a lot more enemies very soon. So it's something to be aware of. You can still attack it with magic, and also if you use a physical attack that kills it, it won't split. But again, if it has any HP left and you use a physical attack, it will split at the end of the attack. But we took it out pretty quickly. So now I'm going to teleport out, I'm going to level up a little bit more, and I'll meet you at the entrance to this cave after I get up to about level 42 for the next area. So notice the Triton hammer here, pretty powerful, significantly stronger than our previous weapons. Alright, so we are done in the Sunken Cave. I got up to level 42 with everybody. Now we're going to head to the next plot-related dungeon, because we are done with side quests for now. So the next plot-related dungeon is actually up in the northwest corner near Saronia. And to approach it, you actually have to come at it from the western side. So continue up the western continent until you start to see some forests, and you want to look for this little island that has forests on it, and then head to the east along the river, and then you'll find the opening to the cave. So we'll head on in to the cave that leads to the ancient ruins. So this is actually blocked by a plot progression piece. So we'll talk to these scholars up here who tell us a little bit more about the ancient ruins. And to the south, you'll notice there has been a cave-in. So there's been adamantite that has blocked the way into the ruins, and this is what you need Unai for. So without Unai, you would not be able to progress. Let's see if she says anything new. Nope, she just repeats the same thing. She does have a few things that she says, but I'm not necessarily going to waste any time trying to get them all. So to progress into the ruins, what you want to do is just head south, and then it'll activate a cutscene. So Unai is going to take the lead. She's going to use some Dreamworld stones to strike against them to annihilate both objects. Like how she's like, stand back, here we go. And our party members do not move. In the NES fan translation, she talked about sending the rocks to an alternate dimension. But here they're just much more literal. I'm just going to knock them together and break them up. So there we go. Now the path is clear to head into the ancient ruins. So this is the dungeon that leads to the Invincible, our final airship. The enemies here are tricky. You're going to start facing more splitting enemies on the lower floors of this dungeon. The first few floors, they're not so difficult. But what's nice is there actually is a little town area that the scholars have built. So we get another reflect mail. Useful, I guess, if you want to use them. And then by heading to the left and up, we will access the Scholars Town area. So there's a new weapon shop here, there is a new armor shop, and then there is an inn as well. And they're going to talk about, well, it wasn't us that did this, it was merchants who were pilfering stuff from in the ruins. Which is interesting, because when you head into the ruins, it's not like there are any chests that have been opened. Unlike in Final Fantasy VI, when you head through the cave near South Figaro, when you're heading back to Figaro with Siegfried and all the chests are empty. So here we have our first merchant. He sells some new armor. Of note is the white and black robes. So those are direct upgrades for your mage characters. So they are significantly stronger than the existing armor that we're wearing. Plus, they boost your abilities by a lot more than the existing armors. The weapons are pretty much the same fare as we've seen so far. So we do have the Defender, which is useful. Another Blood Lance if you want to pick it up. And then the powerful Medusa arrows, which can be very helpful against certain enemies. I'm not necessarily going to stock up on these things. I'm going to focus more on the armor to keep my defense in a good place. But it's there if you want to use it, and especially if you're using other classes like a Dark Knight or a Viking, or again, more mage characters. You can grab more of those different types of armors and weapons and get them up to speed. And then you can also top off all of your items here. So we're going to head on out, and in the next episode we will continue onward through the ancient ruins to find the Invincible. So as always, viewers, thank you for the continued support. I'll see y'all in my next episode. So long. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please press like and leave a comment below. Please also subscribe to my channel and press the notification bell. See you next time.